Everyone. There's been a lot of questions regarding reforecasting your targets now that we're nearing the end of the first semester. So we thought we'd go over what the basic process would be for doing any kind of reforecast. It's really simple. There's actually only two key criteria needed for reforecasting. The first is that you are reasonably certain that your target is no longer accurate. If you have a target, unless you feel pretty confident that you're going to miss it, there's no sense in reforecasting it. The second criteria then is not only that you know it's no longer accurate, but that you're reasonably certain that you know what the new target should be. And that's kind of important. So it's relatively straightforward to say, I'm not sure that I'm going to make my target. It's a little tougher to know what the new target should be, but really you need to make sure that both occur if you are going to reforecast. So diving into that first criteria, suspecting you might be off is not enough. Okay, you really want to feel pretty good that, yeah, I'm gonna miss. And what does that mean? That means that you need clear evidence that your assumptions are incorrect. Shouldn't really be just a hunch. It should be that you've got something very specific, very understandable, and pretty reliable to make you feel like you're not gonna make it. As an example, if you forecast that you're going to have 50 families attend family night, but when you're generating invitations, you discover that you only have 25 families that qualify, well, you're pretty likely to miss your forecast of 50, right? Because you're well short of that in terms of invitations. That would definitely qualify as sort of clear evidence that you're going to miss your target. Number two, having a clear idea of what the correct target should be is also necessary. And what does that mean? Well, that means that you should be reasonably certain that you know what is going to happen. Not just that what you've forecasted is wrong, but that you kind of have a pretty good idea of what you know is right. If you are not certain whether what's going to happen, look for some evidence that can help you reasonably predict that new target. There's often indicators that can help you paint the picture of the future, even if they're not super exact. They are at least evidence-based. An example for this would be you can reforecast your family night attendance if you know that 80% of your invitees will typically attend. So you may recall that we had originally thought that we were going to have 50 in the forecast. Turns out we've only identified 25. Well, we know the 50 is wrong, but how many do we think should attend? Well, if we know that historically 80% of our invitees come, we can say, all right, 80% of the 25 people we identified are likely to come. That should be our new number. So how certain is reasonably certain? Predicting the future is really hard, okay? There's no question that it is not a guarantee of what's to come. Just as your original targets are not guarantees, neither is your reforecast. But reasonably certain in this case is typically based on evidence. And so that evidence could be a consistent historical pattern. We talked about that earlier. If we know that 80% of families accept the invitation, then, as long as you know how many invitations you're putting out, that's a reasonably certain guess. The other way to do this is an observable constraint. If we go back to our first example of we had a target of 50 people to attend family night, but we only found 25 that we could invite, well, clearly you can't get to 50 if you start with 25. So that's an observable constraint, and that certainly qualifies as reasonably certain evidence. Okay, that's it. As long as those two criteria occur, you can reforecast. If you need help reforecasting, feel free to reach out to Ron Sullivan or myself. Hope this helps, and please call me if you have any questions.